What's up, guys? It's your boy, Scotty D. Just being like a YouTuber, you know? I don't make YouTube videos very often. I was going to cover this build a lot more intensively, but building it is much easier than setting up a camera and recording. So I wanted to make this video to just explain where we're at right now with the car. The last video that I put up was a very basic build on the car, a very entry-level good setup, but I wanted to elevate the build a little bit and got a little out of hand, but we're building quite a cool car here. So I just wanted to go over basically where the car's at right now, the original intention of the build at this point, the plans for it continuing, and that kind of a thing, just so you can see what it takes to build like a pro level car, I guess, especially out of a Mustang. So yeah, I know that there's not many people who have built cars like this to this level. There's a few people, but just here's my take on it. So the car is still relatively in pieces, but we're getting the majority of it done here. So what you're seeing right here is in fact an LS engine. The block is empty right now. This is a mock-up block, while CPR Engines has my actual block being built. It is going to be a forged bottom end minus the crank, but a forged 6-liter aluminum block, and I have some Texas Speed ported 243 heads that are right here. You can see the PRC on them, and it's going to have a Texas Speed Magic Stick 3 cam. It should be in the realm of 450 to 500 wheel horsepower NA. That was the goal for this year, to be competitive for the Pro-Am stuff, and even to be able to carry it into like the shootouts and that kind of a thing and still have some fun. It's still front radiator with an aluminum engine, and the way that the car is set up, I didn't feel the need to put the radiator in the back. Obviously you get the cleaner airflow in the front of the car. The only downside to keeping it in the front of the car, besides weight distribution, which I don't have a problem with, is impact, but you can see it is set behind the main structure of the front tube structure. So if that thing gets impacted, I have a lot more to worry about than just the radiator getting punctured. It's on field coilovers. It will be on the newest version of my angle kit, because I make angle kits for Mustangs, Scotty D Race Development. You can see there's actually a mock-up of a kit right here. So this is basically what you get with a quick angle kit. So you can see this little bolt-on adapter here. The tie rod mounts there. It has Ackerman adjustment, and then there's just no center tie rod because I was mocking this up for clearance stuff. But that is the quick angle kit. The subframe is cut. It's cut flush with the frame rail for tire clearance and weight purposes. There's usually a spring pocket up in here for the factory spring, but I cut it out. Didn't need it, obviously, with a coilover setup, and then you get more clearance and it looks better. Using Maximum Motorsports caster camber plates for now. I will most likely make my own top hats, since these are so kind of like clunky. But they work really well, especially if you do the flip thing. So this is actually the one that comes for the driver's side. So you just change the tops and then cut a little bit out so you can get all the camber adjustment that you can get. This is an LS6 intake, aftermarket fuel rails. You can see the steam port kit. I just have a filter mounted on the throttle body. Holley tall LS valve covers with the breathers on there. Fuel pressure regulator right there. You can see the fire suppression nozzle. It's got a Wilwood standalone pedal setup here, so divorced front and rear with a bias bar, and then the clutch reservoir there for the hydraulic clutch of the T56 that's in here. The brake lines are all 3AN throughout the car. With a race car, you can kind of get away with that kind of stuff. Right now I'm in the middle of doing this stuff, but there's a fire suppression bottle with the lines ran, which is per the Formula Drift Pro-Am and Formula Drift rules. I have the T56 mocked up with my own shifter cover plate. It's got a VMS straight shifter on it right now. The handbrake mount is right next to it. My handbrake is not in it, but I'll be using one of my handbrakes. My NRG seat, Kelsey's Crazy Cart with my cooler on it. NRG short hub, NRG quick release adapter. The wheel is also NRG with my company logo on it and my number. The rear firewall, we just made a quick cover for it. That's going to get painted or wrapped. I have so many tools just all over the place. The cooler, or the radiator, is actually the Mishimoto for the Mustang. I just adapted this little it's not a reservoir because it's still a part of the pressure system. So this is actually like the expansion tank for the radiator. And then there will be a overflow tank as well because it's mandated to have an overflow. The battery mount is right here. It's getting rusty because the car hasn't been painted yet, but mount a battery box on that. It's all weld nuts on the bottom, so you don't have to worry about holding a nut on it. If we come back here, you can see the fenders are all cut out for some aftermarket over fenders that just bolt on. The rear is all a tube structure. These are the taillight mounts. This is the rear bumper mount, and you can see the fuel cell. And we have a Holley in-tank pump setup. So instead of running an inline fuel pump and then worrying about fuel temps and all those filters and stuff, it's just an in-tank pump. It's 390 liter per hour, so it should be fine for my application. These are made for aftermarket fuel cells. This is a Jazz 12-gallon fuel cell. I have a 10 micron filter here to the injectors, and then obviously the return line here. It's all 6AN fuel lines. This is a fuel level sender, so there's a float gauge in there, and it just outputs a signal. And I'm going to put a fuel gauge somewhere in the back here so that when anybody's filling it back here, you can see the gauge. I don't really need to know in the driver compartment, but I could run a parallel set of wires up to the front and hook it up to the Holley ECU because this is going to be ran on a Holley Terminator X setup. So you can see the rear tube structure. This is just a little piece of cardboard cutout right here for now, but as you can see behind it, there's the IRS differential with the full IRS subframe. Got extended studs and then my dual caliper brackets on it to use these Z32 Parts by Max, Powered by Max, Part Shop Max, whatever they're called, calipers. And then fuel coilovers on the back here. The lower arms are powder coated black just to make everything look good, and obviously the subframe's powder coated green. If we go underneath, just using a Cobra drive shaft because it works with the T56. Sorry, the sun's so bright. And then you can see the drive shaft safety loop right there. And we'll go under here. And you can see the T56 with the aftermarket trans mount. I forget what brand trans mount that is, but works pretty well. Then you can see this side of the subframe. It's got a Canton road race pan on it. It's got solid motor mounts, so there's a kit that actually adapts 4.6 style mounts to the LS engine, so we used those and modified them a little bit just to make them the best that they could be. And that's about it for now. There's many more parts that are going to be going on to this, but right now this is the current stage of the build. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I started this in December with just originally wanting to do the tube front and tube rear, just for like crash kind of situations where you don't have to like worry about pulling the frame back out because it's all more flimsy than the factory stuff. But it kind of escalated after that because I really wanted to have a car that I was proud of and that I got to put some serious work into, and it wasn't all cluttered with the factory stuff that wasn't necessary. So you can check the previous video that I did on my car the way it was before, But yeah, here's where we're at right now, and hopefully soon I'll be able to have like a startup video at least. So check it out. If you have questions, just comment or send a message, but I'll be doing more of this more often. Thanks.